that. Well, we'll end with a big thank you to one of our viewers who is really reinforcing what you've been talking to us about over many months, and that is the NHS going virtual. Let's have a look at this email that we received. Good morning, Brian. First of all, thank you for what you're all doing at the UK column. This is probably an issue that Debbie Evans has been looking at, but I'm not sure she's seen that they've listed jobs in the Stoke-on-Trent area. They're looking for virtual ward staff. And if we just bring this one in, here we are, virtual ward, modern matron, salary of 48,526 to 54,619 a year. The job is full-time remote. And I followed this email up, so I went back to the source advert here. Here's the virtual ward, and what this is doing is saying we're going to be caring, apparently, for critically ill people in their own home. That forms the virtual ward, and we've now got staff who are going to be monitoring those staff remotely, presumably with some visits. But of course, Debbie, what you specifically highlighted is that the NHS is talking more and more about its ability to use AI and remote monitoring systems to keep an eye on patients who are left in their own homes.
Yeah, biosensors. That's what we're looking at, is Fitbits, and they're going to remotely link you up, even to the point where if you've had to have a procedure or surgery, you're going to be literally discharged almost while you're asleep, and you're going to be monitored at home. But one interesting thing that I do just want to say is that I know of a GP, a very experienced, highly qualified GP, who has applied to every single NHS GP trust in pretty much the local, well, in the southwest vicinity, should I say, and he's been refused a job because he doesn't follow the government narrative and because he's aware of what's going on, and he's been refused work. This is a very, very experienced NHS senior doctor, and yet we're advertising for remote staff to work remotely. It's well, we've been warning about it for a long time, and there's more of it to come, I'm afraid. This is just the start.
Yeah, and Debbie, just very, very briefly, I mean, the implications of this are horrendous when people are already struggling to afford energy costs. You then shove a whole bunch of diagnostic equipment into somebody's home and expect them to be rehabilitated in their home rather than in the hospital when they're critically ill. This type of equipment is monitoring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is going to put energy costs for the homeowner through the roof. When in fact it would have been the NHS who was paying for that if the person had been treated in hospital.
Yeah, and I've heard from a number of sources that this whole program is not going to be affordable. What they need is some very, very experienced community nurses in order to manage it, and they just don't have community nurses in those quantities to be able to manage it. And patients won't be able to manage these pieces of equipment. They go wrong, they fail, they're inaccurate. So it's never going to work. But you know what, Mike? It just brings me back to a question you asked me last week, because it set me thinking about the falls service, where we're going to leave people at home. If they've had a fall, there's going to be a special a crew sent round if you've had to hit your panic button and you've fallen. And you said to me, what happens to these people? And I've spoken to a number of nurses, and what they're saying is if somebody elderly falls at home, they're put in a brace, given morphine, and kept at home. It's that simple. They're not taken to hospital. Nobody's going to be taken to hospital anymore. People are going to end up with so much medical equipment that has to be linked up to the internet and to the cloud and to whoever. They're not going to be able to manage it. These are sick people often. It's ridiculous. It won't work.
Well, it's not designed to work, is it? Ultimately, it's designed to cause people further suffering. That's the real tragedy.
Okay, well, Debbie, let's just end with a couple of memes.
Yes, I thought the panopticon that we all seem to be living in. I'll let you read them out, gentlemen, because I think they're self-explanatory, but I thought they were particularly pertinent, especially given the metaverse as well.
On the left, we have a cartoon with a man in a t-shirt, Mickey Mouse t-shirt. He's looking into his virtual reality goggles, and underneath it says the best way to keep a prisoner from escaping is to make sure he never knows he's in prison, which seems pretty accurate. And on the right, we've got a little statement. It says, you must be willing to truly consider evidence that contradicts your beliefs and admit the possibility that you may be wrong. Intelligence isn't knowing everything, it's the ability to challenge everything you know. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, I think there's some things to reflect on there.
Look, we can't do an extra today, so apologies for that. So we will be back at 1 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, thank you all very much for joining us, and thank you so much for everybody who's been a long-term supporter of the UK column. Your effort has made a big difference to how we do things, and we've got more good news coming up in the future. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.